what exactly is it like to be a computer science major? So of course, I think that's very different depending on who you are. But for me personally, the reason why I chose computer science was because I was very attracted to the flexibility of the major. I really wanted to solve cool, interesting problems without, to be honest, needing to go into lab physically and do lab work because I'm actually not the best at that. And also, I think that there are very good job opportunities when it comes to computer science, and also in terms of the versatility of the fields you can go in. You don't just have to be a software engineer. You can be so many other different things, anywhere from, for example, like consulting to investment banking to quant to trading to computer science to like healthcare. The list goes on and on. So I think it's a very good major to be in, especially if you are like me and are a bit indecisive about what you want to do in the future, or if you already know that you want to study computer science, that's great as well. Yeah, so today we're going to be talking about some of the top computer science programs in the US. So specifically, we'll be talking about MIT, my alma mater. We'll be talking about some of the other schools I applied to, including Stanford, Caltech, Carnegie Mellon, Georgia Tech, University of Pennsylvania, UIUC, and UC Berkeley. So yeah, let's get started. Okay, so first let's start with MIT. So MIT, you can see the iconic dome in the photo there. MIT got around 20,000 applicants last year. We usually admit like anywhere between like 1.1K to 1.5K each year. I believe the number of admits is actually increasing because MIT is trying to increase the number of people that they accept each year. So we have a 7.3% acceptance rate. And here below, you can see some of the stats regarding the median percentile of students that are admitted. So you can see that we do ask for pretty high SAT math scores, like almost perfect, 790, 800. Like reading and writing as well, we require like not super perfect, but also up there, 730, 780. For the ACT, we also ask that it be pretty high up there for SAT and ACT. So yeah, these are some things to consider when applying. Of course, like not hitting these numbers does not mean that you will automatically not get in, but hitting these numbers will definitely help you and make your chances a lot better in terms of getting in. So that these are some things to keep in mind when applying to MIT. We also recommend, again, these are not hard requirements, but these are suggested classes that when you go through high school, you try to prepare your curriculum around the following. So we ask for 1 year of high school physics, chemistry, and bio. The reason why we ask for these is because we have these classes called General Institute Requirements, which are some of the core sciences, including physics, chemistry, biology, some math, and some humanities. You can customize the humanities a bit more, but essentially MIT does want to ensure that even if you know that you're going to study computer science, for example, you still get a breadth of knowledge in the science and humanities fields. So as a result, because everyone, no matter what you study at MIT, has to take like MIT's intro physics, chem, and bio, MIT does ask that students try to come in with some intro knowledge as well, so they aren't behind in terms of these classes. We also ask for math through calculus. We also ask for 2 years of a foreign language. I believe that in the US, a lot of high schools have a language requirement, so hopefully it already meets it. But if your school doesn't, you should keep this into consideration. Also, if you happen to be international from a country where English is not the major language, I'm pretty sure this requirement is a bit more trivial because you obviously know English as well as your native language, if that is the case. So we also ask 4 years of English, so definitely take English classes if you have them, and also 2 years of history and or social sciences. So again, for example, my high school required that we take 4 years of history and or social science to graduate. So I already had that requirement automatically fulfilled because I got my high school diploma, but definitely keep this in mind if you happen to go through a school that doesn't have these requirements as much. Yeah. So MIT has a lot of different flavors of CS majors. Some of these are actually quite new. So I'll go through these really quick. So your, I guess, most traditional CS major would be course 6-3, computer science and engineering. Oh, so for context, MIT likes to number a lot of things. So especially they like to number course majors, which we call courses. So specifically course 6 is the EECS department. So if you see 6 dash something, that means that it is part of the EECS department. So for example, course 5 is chemistry, course 7 is biology, course 6 is EECS, course 12 is earth and space science. So just that's like the context. So 6-3, major 6-3, course 6-3 is the most popular out of all the computer science majors, and it is also the most traditional. Like if you want to go into software engineering, this might be the one that is best for you. Some of the other ones, EE is electrical science engineering, is course 6-1. This is if you want to go into more hardware, more like, for example, robotics, things like that. There's a lot of overlap in classes between 6-1 and our mechanical engineering department. So that like kind of speaks to kind of the more hardware part of EECS. 6-2 is, I guess, electrical engineering, computer science, and more of a mix. If you aren't sure if you want to be straight computer science or straight hardware, you could definitely take this major and you have a bit more flexibility. Something that is really nice about MIT is that it's really, really easy to switch majors. You don't really, there are no prerequisites. You just fill in a form and your advisor has to sign it. So if at any point you decide to like switch out of computer science, switch into computer science, switch between different majors in computer science, it's very, very simple. Just as long as you graduate at the end, that's all you really should care about when it comes to picking your major. Yeah, so those are the more traditional ones. Some of the newer ones include 6-7, which is computer science and molecular biology. Like I mentioned, course 7 is biology. So course 6, EECS, course 7, biology combined to make 6-7 makes it computer science and molecular biology. So this is a pretty popular major for people who want to go into like computational lab work or go into like computational bio research. Some other ones include 11-6. This is actually quite new. I believe it was instated like 2 years ago. This is urban science, which is course 11, with computer science, which is course 6. Something else that is not on this slide right now is math and computer science, but that's course 18C. So math is course 18 at MIT. This is one of the most popular double majors because a lot of people who major in computer science also like math as well. So that's something to keep in mind. If you go to MIT, you can get 2 majors with a lot of overlap and graduate with a double major without that much extra work because the math curriculum is really flexible. Like, of course, it's still rigorous, but you have a lot of freedom in what specific classes you take to meet the requirement. So you can take all the interesting classes you want that interest you specifically, and you can also make it so there's a lot of overlap in the classes that double count for your math and your computer science major. So keep that in mind. Yeah, and then 6P, so 6P, 6-7P. So MIT has this program called the MEng, which is the Masters of Engineering program. So because of basically the this particular Master of Engineering program, unlike more traditional master's programs, which take 2 years, this is open specifically for people who have done some of the specific computer science courses, computer science majors as undergrad. So if you did, I believe 6-3, 6-2, or I think definitely 6-3, 6-2, then you're eligible to apply to this master's program. So it's a bit more accelerated. Most students finish in anywhere between, sometimes half a year, but anywhere between a year to a year and a half usually, and you get a master's out of it. So that's very, very popular among a lot of MIT undergrads. And also there is an option for MEng where you do industry work. So instead of doing research for your master's in an MIT lab, you do research for your master's at a company that MIT has a partnership with. So for example, I had a friend who did her MEng last year with IBM and had a great time. So that is another unique, pretty unique opportunity that MIT affords its undergraduates, basically to get a master's, a really fast master's after the fact if they take a computer science major. Yeah. So now that I have given a more overview of CS majors, there are some, I want to point out specifically some of the interdisciplinary ones. So I mentioned 6-7 and 11-6 already. Something else is 6-14. So this is also really new. I believe it's also around the past 2 years it's been instated. This is 6-14, which is computer science, economics, and data science. The reason I believe this was instated is because course 6, which is computer science, ECS, course 14 is econ. That has been one of the most popular double majors besides 18C, the math one, for a while. So because of that, the administration probably saw the need and the demand to make a joint major. So I have a couple of friends taking course 6 through 6-14, and they seem to like it a lot. So again, that is another path, especially if you want to go, I would say, into like investment banking or consulting or something more finance related. A lot of people do take 6-14 with that in mind. Yeah, so next let's move on to Stanford University. So Stanford had around 45K applicants last year. They admitted 2.3K, so they're a bit bigger than MIT in that regard. Yeah, so it's 1.6K enrolled. So again, for Stanford, the math section, I guess it's a bit less in terms of the median, the 50 percentile. There's a bit more leniency when it comes to the SAT math session in terms of what you can get. Same for writing, I guess it's just like a bit more spread out. And the ACT also is a bit more lenient, but also keep in mind that Stanford does like academic excellence. So if you can try to meet or beat the 50 percentile test scores to get yourself the best chance of getting to Stanford. Yeah, so what classes would you need in high school to major in computer science? So a lot of these schools definitely do not require any prior knowledge of computer science. I can tell you for me personally, when I applied, I took one AP computer science class in high school. I did not know I was going to major in computer science. I didn't know really how to program besides like, you know, the easy questions we did in the high school computer science class. So like MIT and a lot of other schools in this list, Stanford does not require that you have any prior knowledge of computer science. And they do want you to explore and kind of test the waters and decide what you want at college. So yeah, definitely keep that in mind. You don't have to be like a guru in computer science in order to do well in Stanford computer science. Also, keep in mind that a lot of people have come in without any computer science knowledge and do really well in terms of classes and job search in Stanford computer science classes. So for sure, not knowing computer science before college should not be a detriment for declaring computer science. And oftentimes, like the best programmers I know are also people who didn't think about majoring computer science at all before like sophomore year of college. So yeah, like keep this in mind. Like you're when you apply to Stanford, you won't get rejected if you don't know computer science but you want to major in computer science. Like that won't be the reason for your rejection. Yeah. So Stanford has some like I guess like more like majors based on like more narrow categories than MIT. So for example, they have an AI major, they have a biocomp major, computer engineering, which is closer to the more traditional software engineering one, like 6-3 in MIT, graphics, human computer interaction, information and systems and theory. Something specific that Stanford has is unspecialized, which is basically like you don't have to actually narrow down your scope. You can take more general classes. Also, Stanford has this program where you can individually design your classes. So basically you have to like plan out some curriculum, write some justification, and then get your advisor and the dean, I believe of the CS department to approve to make sure that it's like a reasonable course load. So that is something pretty special because for example, like for MIT, like yes, there's a lot of choices in classes that you can take to get your CS degree, but you kind of have to follow at least one track. You can be like a bit more lenient when it comes to humanities, but for the actual CS majors, you can petition, but there's no way you can like actually custom design your own track. So I think it's pretty cool of Stanford to offer this to help those who have like a very very unique path that they want to go through to get their CS major. Yeah, so let's take a closer look at these majors. So yeah, AI is a pretty hot topic right now, but yeah, includes stuff like knowledge representation, logic, machine learning, probabilistic models, inference, NLP, speech recognition, computer vision, and comp bio actually. So there's quite a bit of overlap in between computational biology and AI research as well. So again, like I think that's one of the more popular majors, computer science concentrations at Stanford, because like there's a lot of cool news and research regarding ML and AI that has come forth like within the past few years. The next major I want to talk about is biocomputation. So yeah, biocomputation is very linked to fields such as like medical informatics and bioengineering. And yeah, like basically a lot of people who are pre-med actually do declare biocomputation because it is flexible. So it allows people to both fulfill their pre-med requirements as well as get a CS degree. So I think like the equivalent for MIT would probably be 6-7, which is computational biology. And I feel like for the pre-meds at MIT, a lot of them are computational biology or bioengineering. So I guess this is kind of like a mix between bioengineering and biocomputation and computational biology. Yep. So next, let's talk about computer engineering. So like I mentioned, computer engineering is the more traditional CS path, I guess. So yeah, it's like more like robotics, mechatronics, things like that, and like also digital things as well. So that's a pretty solid major, and I know a couple of my friends at Google who went to Stanford and majored in this. Next, human-computer interaction. This is, I guess, like not just straight computer science, but also involves a lot of other disciplines. So yeah, like definitely a lot of like prototyping, a lot of like designing how the user interacts with a specific product, a lot of designing is involved in this. There's a lot of cool research being done in this field for sure. Yeah, so next let's move on to Caltech. So a California Institute of Technology located in Pasadena, California. So Caltech is really quite small compared to a lot of schools in general. Like I believe that their total number of people per class is less than 1,000. So it's like very small. Yeah, so acceptance rate 6%. For SATs, reading again is like you don't need like for the middle 50%, you don't need to have like stellar math reading scores. Math they do ask that you have really good math scores, pretty good math scores for ACT. Similarly for math, like ask that you score among the top. And writing, I guess they're a bit more like writing in English, like they're a bit more lenient on. But yeah, so that's Caltech. And I think Caltech compared to a lot of the other schools in this area has a very strong focus on math and expects that their undergraduates come in with, I guess, a stronger math background than a lot of the other schools on this list. So I'll go through that in a bit. But yeah, so for Caltech, computer science is the most popular major. That's also the same for MIT. I believe for MIT, around 35% of undergraduates are computer science of some sort. And that doesn't include the math and CS double that major. So the number is actually a bit more. So yeah, very similarly, Caltech, 36% of people are computer science. 36% of people who are computer scientists, also double in another discipline. And in terms of gender ratio, like 43% of the current incoming class of computer scientists majors at Caltech are women. And yeah, Caltech definitely has a very strong focus on math and computer science, similar to MIT. But we also have we actually have the same mascot. We're both the beavers because beavers are kind of the engineers of the natural world. So I found that pretty funny when I learned. But yeah, so I'm going to highlight again math specifically when it comes to Caltech. So Caltech really, really asks for a good math background because like, again, I believe, and I guess Caltech believes that like math is like, everything is applied math if you think about it. Like all the engineering disciplines are applied math. So having like a good bedrock for that is very, very important. So yeah, like basically ask that you do know calculus well by the time you apply, and you also have you are very well equipped to continue your math education at Caltech. So for example, set logic, differential calculus, linear algebra, and diffie-q are topics that they ask that all first year students at Caltech master. I will say specifically for computer science majors, concentrations such as ML and AI, linear algebra is very, very important. So even if you go to a school where linear algebra isn't required as part of your curriculum, if you do go into specifically AI or ML, I would definitely recommend brushing up on your linear algebra and taking those classes, because that really builds the foundation for a lot of the intricacies that fall under AI and fall under creating models and things like that. Yeah, so oops, sorry, I might have misclicked. Okay, cool. So yeah, Caltech has a couple of majors and minors in computer science. So I'm going to highlight like applied and computational mathematics, computer science, and info and data sciences. And they also offer minors in control and dynamical systems, the minor in computer science, and minor in information and data sciences. So let's go through some of these specific goals that Caltech asks. So again, I'm going to highlight again, they ask for a thorough understanding of the mathematical and algorithmic foundations of computer science. So again, Caltech, more so than a lot of schools on this list, really emphasizes a good math background. So yeah, in addition, Caltech also asks for research, like kind of like a research passion and like or a research understanding. And that's like, I think sometimes the benefit of going to a smaller school, because Caltech has, like as you probably are aware, world-renowned researchers teaching and like having labs there. So if there are less students in general, the probability that you can get a position at a lab as an undergrad to do research is higher. So that's like definitely something that I will highlight as a plus for Caltech. Like just the fact that there are less students means that there's a lot of support and funding and like opportunities for each individual student, right? So Caltech also likes basically teamwork. So again, working on a significant project as a team is something that is emphasized. Also asking for the ability to apply computational thinking to a variety of problems. So this is not just limited to computer science, but also to other things as well. So this like, again, points kind of to the importance of like logical thinking, which is a good basis for math and computer science. And this can also apply beyond just math and computer science. And again, Caltech does highlight research as well. So understanding how to critically evaluate computer science research is really important. And yeah, finally, communication. I know that computer scientists sometimes have a, what's the word? Sometimes have a stereotype of not being able to communicate properly. MIT specifically has an entire class that's required called 6UAT, which is oral communication. So I took it. Basically, they teach you how to give presentations, how to structure a talk for a non-technical audience. So I think like, Caltech and MIT have a similar idea that sometimes computer scientists might not be the best communicators, but it's important to know how to communicate, because sometimes a lot of your stakeholders in either in industry or in academia will not be people with as much STEM or specifically computer science background as you may have. So something important to keep in mind. Yep. Next, let's move on to Carnegie Mellon. So Carnegie Mellon, also an excellent school. Applications 9.8K last time, acceptance rate 20%. Yeah, when you look at the 50% stats, you can see that like, again, like math is very, like they ask for good math skills, like a bit more lenient when it comes to reading and writing, as you can see both in terms of the SAT and the ACT. Yeah, GPA 3.91. So yeah, these are some stats. Again, like not meeting these stats does not necessarily mean that you'll automatically rejected. Meeting these stats does not necessarily mean that you'll automatically get accepted, but these are good benchmarks to keep in mind when you're applying to Carnegie Mellon. Yep, so in terms of high school preparation, these are pretty similar to, I guess, what MIT asks for. Again, 4 years of English, 4 years of math, and these math include things like algebra, geometry, trig, pre-calc, and hopefully calculus, but it's like, I guess, less of a requirement than what MIT asks for. Again, they ask that you take like some of the natural sciences, including physics, chemistry, biology, or CS, foreign language as well. Again, if you are from a country where English is not your native tongue, like you'll probably meet the foreign language requirement already automatically, and electives as well. So electives include things like, for example, like band or like music, or theater, or like just like things like that are classes that are not required in your curriculum, but also you should consider taking. Yeah, so in terms of Carnegie Mellon, there are 4 major tracks. There is the AI, Comp Bio, standard traditional computer science, and human-computer interaction, or HCI. So you can see there's like a lot of overlap in the types of majors that a lot of these schools offer. So something I want to highlight is that Carnegie Mellon is pretty unique in that they actually offer a Bachelor of CS and Arts, so an interdisciplinary major, which I think is really cool. So for example, you can pursue like game design or computer animation or like music with also a computer science major. So I find this really cool because when I was at MIT, so we have a humanities concentration like that you need to take. So I actually chose game design for mine. So I programmed video games for fun for my concentration in humanities, which I guess is ironic, kind of. And a lot of other people do this, or they take like econ classes because that technically counts as humanities, even though, to be honest, econ is applied math at MIT. However, like the fact that Carnegie Mellon has a more defined system to allow you to do this, I think is pretty awesome. And because I think that there is actually a lot of overlap in between computer science and like arts, especially when it comes to like new age arts, like things that require like computers. So I think that it's really cool that there's a explicit opportunity for students to do this. Yep. So again, like music and technology have, I think, a lot of really cool applications. So music, computer science, and electrical engineering can be like meshed together in a single major. So this caters to anyone from like people who are like very accomplished musicians outright to people who like just want like to explore more CS and music. And also because Carnegie Mellon has advisors that help people, students, make good decisions when it comes to selecting like if they want to do just computer science or computer science and arts, and like which capstone projects to pick to best fit their needs. Yep. So next, let's move on to Georgia Tech. So Georgia Tech is in Georgia in the US, 40K applicants. So Georgia Tech does have a higher application acceptance rate when it comes to people from Georgia versus people not from Georgia, and has like 3.2K per year. So it's a bit bigger than some of the other schools on this list. Yeah, for Georgia Tech, requirements include, again, pretty standard, like they ask for English, math, science, social science, and foreign language. Yeah, so again, like these aren't like super like, you know, mandatory, but definitely try to fit these as you do start applying and deciding which colleges to apply to. So again, something to keep in mind that all of these schools have holistic application process. So like it's not just about stats, it's also about like who you are and like how you convey yourself and your passions and your motivations and your accomplishments in essays as well. And you don't just look at like just at grades or just at like SAT, ACT scores, but definitely keep these in mind as you do apply to make sure that you have the best chance of getting into these schools. Yep, so next let's move to the specific majors in Georgia Tech. So Georgia Tech has a very similar to MIT, this like program where you can earn a bachelor's and a master's in 5 years. I have a friend doing that actually, and like she likes it a lot because like she didn't have to take that many more classes than the bachelor's candidates. And also it does help save money, similarly to MIT, where if you get into the Masters of Engineering program, you can get funding quite easily. You don't have to reapply for funding necessarily. As long as you find a professor who can sponsor your research, then you can get that entire year and a half covered. So I believe that's something very similar that happens in Georgia Tech. Yeah, so Bachelor's of Computer Science, Science and Computer Science. So this is like your more traditional software engineering one. Bachelor of Science and Computational Media. So this is like also similar to the Carnegie Mellon one in that you can do like computer science with like music or with like stuff with entertainment, education, and business. And also there's a bunch of majors that Georgia Tech offers when it comes to people who want to do computer science, like mixed in with some other, for example, humanities or other natural sciences. So next, let's talk about UPenn. So for UPenn, admit rate is 9%, 44K applicants, 3.7K admitted. So this is bigger than some of the other schools on the list. In terms of SAT, they ask that out of 1,600, the 50 percentile scores around 1470 to 1550. And for the ACT composite, they're asking that your scores are also relatively high up there. So keep those in mind for UPenn. Yep. And for UPenn, what they ask is that if you do apply to computer science or another engineering discipline, you do have like some reason or some passion for pursuing the engineering education, and also ask that you are able to think creatively and to innovate and design and apply scientific discoveries, whether it be through research, whether it be through your classwork or your capstone projects and things like that. Also asking for a strong preparation in physics and mathematics, particularly calculus. So as you can probably tell, to try to help ensure that you might excel in computer science, a lot of these schools do ask that you do show prowess when it comes to math. So keep that in mind. But again, it's like not a hard requirement. Like I don't think I was like particularly super good at math. Like yes, like I took the most advanced classes, but I never like did competition math, for example. But yeah, and also physics, I would say specifically for Penn, physics I would say is like a very applied math. So oftentimes if someone is good at math, that might mean that they're also good at physics. Again, like that's not totally true all the time. But I think there's a correlation there in my opinion. Yeah. So for Penn, these are the majors. So Penn has like Bachelor's of Science Engineering, which is BSE, and Bachelor's of Applied Sciences, which is BAS. So they have a BAS in computational biology, BAS in computer science, and then BAS in computer and cognitive sciences. So they also have BSc in computer engineering and BSc in computer science. So there's not that big of a difference in between a BAS and a BSE, except like a couple of classes that are different in those requirements. So if you do get to go to Penn, definitely do research in terms of figuring out which particular track you want to follow. But in terms of how like the outside world sees you, employers don't really care if you got like a computer science BAS or computer science BSE from Penn. So it's like something to keep in mind. Like it's not super big of a distinction, a BAS versus a BSE. Yep. So next, let's talk about the BAS in computer and cognitive sciences. So yeah, this again is very similar to MIT's computational biology, or sorry, 6-9, which is 6-9, which is the intersection between neuroscience and EECS. So again, this like combines EECS with linguistics or neuroscience or philosophy or psychology. So I think it's pretty cool. You can like apply this anything from algos to AI to things like that. So yeah, I think that's a pretty cool major in general, and not just in Penn, but in other schools as well on this list. Next, let's talk about UIUC, University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. So this asking for a GPA between 3.5 and 3.94 for the middle percentiles. For the SAT score, I guess it's like bit less rigorous than some of the other schools, like asking for like a 1290 to 1490, similarly for the ACT, and like these are the TOEFL scores as well. And specifically for the College of Engineering, which is where the computer science department falls under, those are the stats. You can see that it's a bit higher than the campus stats, but still, like I would say, not as competitive as some of the other schools on this list. So yeah, keep that in mind if you're applying to all these schools. So yeah, in terms of what they ask for in high school, it's less like, I guess, hard requirements or less specific requirements as some of the other colleges out there in the list. But essentially try to, take like hard classes if you can, try to take like APs or IBs if your school has them, and try to perform consistently well. Yeah, to prepare yourself for engineering at UIUC. So for UIUC, there are 4 majors, or okay, there's like a bunch of majors in the CS plus X degrees, but there's 4 main categories. There's computer science, there's mathematics and computer science, there's stats and computer science, and then there's computer science and a bunch of different bunch of different like humanities concentrations and other concentrations. So let's go over those right now. So yeah, UIUC has specifically a really, really good like agriculture and farming program. So as you can see, some of the majors are actually quite unique, I think, to UIUC compared to the other schools. So for example, computer science and crop sciences is something that UIUC is very good at. I also want to point out like computer science and geography, computer science and anthropology, computer science, and things like that. So yeah, just keep in mind that UIUC is like, I think, world renowned when it comes to their agriculture programs, and they definitely play up to that strength in some of these CS plus X degrees as well. But they also have like more, I guess, like more similar ones to the other schools, such as computer science and philosophy, computer science and music, computer science and linguistics. So there's a lot of different choices if you go to UIUC and want to pursue computer science. Next, let's talk about Berkeley. So I actually have a soft spot for Berkeley. I grew up 5 minutes drive away from Berkeley, and I did research in Berkeley a summer and throughout 2 years in high school. And I also did a lot of competitions that were hosted on Berkeley campus. So I really like Berkeley, and you can see the famous Campanile Tower in the photo there. So yeah, Berkeley is part of the UC system, University of California system. These are some of the stats. You can see that it's like a lot bigger than a lot of these schools because it is a public school, it's a state school. They do ask for pretty good GPAs and like SAT, ACT up there, but not as competitive as some of the other schools on the list, to be honest. Yeah, 15K admits per school. So per year. So as like, it's like literally like 10 times as big, for example, as MIT, like more than 10 times as big as Caltech. So yeah, it's definitely a lot more people there in general. But yeah, so for UC Berkeley, they ask that you take 2 years of history, 4 years of English, 3 years of science, 2 years of science, 3 years of math, foreign language as well. So yeah, like this is very similar to some of the other schools on the list. So again, like I don't think you have to take specific classes to like ensure like your eligibility for one of the schools. Just make sure that of the coursework that you take, you definitely cover the superset of all of the requirements of the schools that you want to apply for. Yeah, so for UC Berkeley, there are two like big majors when it comes to computer science. There is the Bachelor's of Science in Computer Science and the Bachelor of Arts in Computer Science. So Berkeley is split into different departments. So for example, different colleges. So there's like the College of Engineering and the College of Letters and Science, which are separate colleges. And Berkeley is slightly different from some of the other schools in this list in that when you apply to a specific college and a specific major, which means that it's harder to switch in between colleges and majors than other schools. So for example, like for MIT, like literally you apply, no one applies as a major. You apply like, I guess technically undeclared, and then you declare earliest midway through first year. So because of that, there's a lot of flexibility at MIT in terms of like switching in or out of computer science, but it's a bit harder in UC Berkeley. So I'll say specifically that the difference between this is that it's the College of Letters and Science is easier to get into than College of Engineering, notoriously. So like if you look at the stats of the kids who end up doing the Bachelor's of Science in Computer Science, it's oftentimes a lot like more impressive than the median stats when it comes to the kids who do the Bachelor's of Art in Computer Science. However, like I think outside of Berkeley, like there's not that much of a difference in terms of like employers looking to see like if you have a degree. Like they don't really care if it's like a BS or a BA in computer science from Berkeley, but like definitely in terms of like the GPA that you have to, for example, like I know in order to switch into the Bachelor's of Science in Computer Science at Berkeley, you need like almost a perfect GPA to do so, versus like it's a lot easier to switch into the Bachelor's of Arts in Computer Science at Berkeley, especially because College of Letters and Science includes like a bunch of other sciences, versus like College of Engineering is a bit more limited. So switching in between different majors in the same college at Berkeley is a lot easier than switching between colleges. So that's why it's like so, I guess it's a lot harder to switch into like the College of Engineering's Bachelor's of Science in Computer Science, because requirements are stricter, and also like it's harder, it's like less likely that you'll actually be in the College of Engineering to begin with, versus College of Letters. Science is like much bigger person wise. So keep that in mind if you do end up going to Berkeley. And yeah, so before we go to questions, I want to talk a bit about my personal advice for high school preparations. So like I mentioned, I studied biology in high school. So sorry, I really liked biology in high school. I did a bunch of biology competitions. So I was pretty, like, I thought I wanted to be a biologist when I came to MIT. So I would say that my particular extracurriculars weren't necessarily computer science focused. Like I did do like a couple of things. I did like robotics club and things like that. However, I would say if I had to redo my high school experience, I think I would definitely want to do some more regarding computer science specifically. So for example, there are a bunch of hackathons out there that are really good because like they make it so beginners are exposed to a lot of different facets of software development, and a lot of different facets of like, you know, APIs you can use, and like different technologies, different programming languages like that. So I would have definitely tried to go to hackathons more when I was in high school if I had known that I was going to eventually be a computer scientist. Also, I think that resources online, such as like Khan Academy, are really useful when it comes to kind of getting like a high level overview of like what computer science is. I definitely recommend, if you have time, I would have tried to look like kind of maybe like read like, I guess first paid more attention to AP computer science class, and also maybe read like some of the textbooks. So the one I recommend is called, it's like nickname CLRS, and it's like basically the standard algorithms book that most of the schools use when they teach computer science. So that's something I would have tried to look at more, I guess. And also finally, I think um, computer science is a lot like, yes, like reading stuff can be good, but more importantly, I believe that doing things, actually making projects, teaches you more. So if I could redo high school, I definitely would try to do my personal projects a bit earlier than, like, I kind of started sophomore year of college and kind of went from there. But for example, like a good first project to do could be a personal portfolio website, which I made mine sophomore year of college. But if I had made one in high school, I think I would have had a lot more fun in college. And I think I would have had a better, like, I guess a better grasp of computer science and the concepts in college. But I want to say that even though these are things I would have personally done, like definitely you don't necessarily need to like do a lot of computer science with extracurriculars in high school to be competitive in college. But just like, you know, if you know that you want to study computer science, you might as well, if you have time, try to go for these. So those are just like personal advices that I would give regarding high school preparation, specifically for computer science. I guess like I will say that like I'll probably talk about extracurriculars in a separate video, but yeah, like of the extracurriculars I did, I guess like a lot of them were math and science related. A lot of them were also not like for example, I did like competitive piano. I did I did varsity track and field. I did varsity tennis. I did like I like helped found like a Spanish culture club. I did Model UN. So I did a lot of things that were not at all science related, but I also did some science related things. So I feel like for high school, um, I it depends on what you want basically. Just like honestly do what makes you happy, and if some that happens to be like hackathons or happens to be personal projects regarding computer science, I think that would be a really good fit. But yeah, like definitely don't feel obligated to do so. Like again, I and so many other people got into MIT and other top CS colleges without any CS background, but it is something that if you know that you want to do, you might as well try, right?